Hi, I'm Linda McHenry. Thank you for joining me for today's Mentoring Moments. I get a lot of questions from agents asking my advice about whether or not they should go out on their own, in other words, form their own agency, or that they've done so and they're looking for more advice. So I just want to share a few insights into that for you. What I would recommend based on my experience, having established two agencies, one an independent agency and then another one as a captive. My first recommendation would be make sure that you have enough product knowledge. If you've only been in the insurance industry a year or two, you probably don't know enough about the different types of insurance that there are out there. And you probably haven't had enough experience selling them, explaining them, reading the policies. That would be my first recommendation. And then my second recommendation would be make sure you have enough agency experience. Make sure you've worked in an agency and you've worked in several roles. Somebody who's only worked in the industry for 6 months or a year, and especially if you've worked at the company level, you haven't worked at the agency, you don't have enough experience or knowledge to anticipate what might happen. So you need to know the role of a CSR, the role of a producer. You need to understand about collecting payments and submitting claims and the administrative end, especially if you're the owner. You might need to hire or want to hire a bookkeeper, but you need to know what that individual is doing because the bookkeeper isn't ultimately going to make all the decisions. So I think that you need to be working in an agency for at least 5 years before you do that. I had 11 years of experience when I started my first agency. And, there's exceptions to everything. But if you want to have the breadth of knowledge that you need to be able to manage an agency and run it comfortably with a minimum of challenges, that's what I would recommend. And again, I can't emphasize the importance of knowing the administrative stuff, understanding taxes, understanding the difference between agency bill and direct bill and how that impacts your bottom line, impacts, how you process things at the agency. What kinds of insurance do you need? Payroll, how are you going to handle payroll and hiring and all that kind of stuff? Because if you're the agency owner, you are the HR manager, you are the operations manager, you are the CFO, you are the CEO, you are the COO, you do it all. So you need to have that knowledge. And for people who have already gone out and they've already started their agency and they're saying, oh my goodness, I did it after 6 months or 2 years, or I wish I'd done this, or I wish I'd done that. Kind of like closing the door after the animals have gotten out of the barn. But still, you can continue to do your research. You can make sure that your location is appropriate. Some people get fancy offices or they have their location in a place that's not going to be convenient for clients or not going to attract new clients. Understand who your client base is. Who do you want to target? Who do you want to sell insurance to? Older people, younger people, what type of insurance do you want to market? Are you going to focus on life and health or just life insurance? Are you going to focus on personal lines, commercial lines? Do you want to do surplus lines? All those things have to be part of your process when you're planning it. And you also want to plan for growth. You want to start out small, make it the least amount of challenges that you have, and then grow from there. One of the things that I found to be most helpful is to make sure that you have really good resources, people who can help you, mentors, people in the industry, people in accounting, a good attorney. You want to make sure you have those people on hand and be working with them before you actually start because they can give you invaluable advice. And I know it's kind of difficult. You think of yourself, well, I'm an agency owner. Am I really going to go talk to another agency owner that's a competitor? Maybe yes, maybe no. It all depends upon who that competitor is. I know that I started my insurance agency 11 years after I started working in the insurance industry. And I wound up having a very good friend, business friend. He started his agency a couple of years later, and he was actually one of the people I worked for in my very first job. So my first job, I was a sales assistant at a life insurance company. He was one of the agents that I sent direct mail letters for and all that kind of stuff. And he and I formed a really good alliance. He had his agency in the next town over. I had mine. We represented the same companies. We helped each other out. I covered for him when he went on vacation. He did the same. He was somebody I could trust. We shared the same values. We shared the same goals. Yeah, we did things differently, but we were able to help each other. And for me, I had Bob. I also had another fellow, David, and it served the same capacity in the life sense. He was a registered rep and a life agent, and he served as my MGA, my managing general agent for my life products. And so if you can do that, that is really helpful too, and especially if you know those people beforehand, because they can steer you in the right way. And don't underestimate the concept that where you're located, meaning geography, what state you're in, is going to have a lot to do with it. State laws and regulations, understand that they vary from state to state. Big important decision, are you going to only sell in one state, or you're going to sell in multiple states? So check your resources. Your Independent Agents Association is a great place to start, and see what other people in the industry can help you. And then, again, check with your networking and your marketing. People, you may already have a mentor in the business that can help you. So hopefully some of these insights will answer any of those questions. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me at my website at lindamchenry.com. I do provide mentorship and coaching on a for-hire and on a volunteer basis. So if you check that out, look at membership, look at my services, perhaps I can help you. Take care.